So namaste and welcome to everyone. This is Rashtra Sevak YouTube channel and I am Ketan Bondre, your host for today's interview, and we have a very special guest today, Kiran Muthal. Kiran is a management consultant and he is operating in a field called financial risk management. Kiran is actually a graduate in engineering and he did his another bachelorate in political science, which is the rare combination. On the one hand, he is an engineer, as well as on the other hand, he has done his political science, and then he has done his masters in financial management, right? So he has a varied experience. Right now, he is sitting on a university board in Netherlands as an advisor. He is guiding some students who stood first in a local competition there in terms of technology, and he is also volunteering for a US think tank. In fact, he spent many of his years in the career in US, and now he has shifted to Europe. So let us understand how Kiran is going to tell us about today's topic, which is cultural context and the emerging technologies like machine learning and artificial intelligence. So welcome Kiran, welcome to Rashtra Sevak YouTube channel. First of all, let us understand how the cultural context sets the technologies apart. For example, we in the South Asia, we have been at a receiving end of technological development, so to say, because all the technological development which happened with industrial revolution in Europe, and then US took over, and then most of the technologies are basically shaping up in Western world, and then they are coming here. We are also offering the offshoring business for the global communities, and though the technologies are evolving in Western world, they are implemented in Indian context also. However, the societal or cultural aspect and civilizational aspect of India is much different than say for example what is there in the US, which has just 500 years of history. And compared to that, we have 5,000 years old historical background, and Europe also has a long historical background. So how do you see that cultural context sets the technologies apart, and what are the ways to tame the technologies to suit the cultural context?
Yes. So first, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting, and thank you, Ketan. You have asked a very right questions to set up the tone of the interview. Emerging technologies is something which is really important because they are going to dominate next century. Last century was the century of computer science, first half of physics and chemistry, because we saw the first two world wars. Then computers came, and now we'll have new emerging technologies which no one thought about. No one would have thought that, oh, there will be an automated car that would drive itself from one place to another place without a human intervention. So that's going to shape and influence the entire century. But it's also important to control or regulate this technology for the right use. And as you rightly said, if you put that in a human life context, America is 500 years old, Europe is 2,500 years old, while India, China are more than 5,000 years old history. So it's like a a teen, working professional, and a seasoned, matured young adult. So you need to think about that aspect, how each country can use this technology in a rightful manner. Countries has developed their culture over last 100 years, few generations. So whatever is correct in America might not be correct in India, right? And that is the main difference. Something is very good in America, we cannot directly bring it and implement in India. These countries are developed for different reasons, different purpose. Their civilization is different or culture is different. America is more towards a capitalistic, money-driven, profit-making industry, while Europe also has a social welfare aspect. India is trying to find a balance between both of them. If you even look at the modern Indian history, starting from Nehru, we have also moved from socialist economy to a more capitalistic and service-driven industry, what we see today. So it's very important to see how these cultural context will influence the society. And I really like one book of Dr. Abdul Kalam. So Abdul Kalam was very much technology influenced. He brought new technologies, he made missiles, aircrafts, everything. His guru was Param Pujaniya Pramukh Swami Maharaj. So Swaminarayan. So Abdul Kalam was, Dr. Kalam was thinking about how India can become a leading power in next 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. And he thought about, yes, bio, cogno, techno, different type of evaluations. So we need to influence in crop production because we have so many 1.3 billion people to feed. So we need to more grains, but we also need better technology to serve everyone. And then we also need a cognitive ability to think about everyone. But then Pramukh Swami Maharaj said, these technologies are wonderful, but they are not enough unless you add an ethical and spiritual aspect to it. And then Dr. Kalam realized, yes, though these technologies are successful in Western world, what India is a spiritual power. From Adi Shankaracharya to Swami Vivekananda. And even today, Swami Vivekananda said 100 years back, India will be a lighthouse guiding the world. Based on what? It's based on our spiritual power. Based on Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya. Everyone in the world should live happy without, irrespective of which faith you follow, if you are man or woman, if you are black or white, if you are straight or LGBT, if you are young or adult, or if you are a human or non-human. Even an animal or a plant should live happily. That's the Indian philosophy. And that should be the guiding light to the entire world. So Dr. Pramukh Swami Maharaj of Swaminarayan said, yes, add an ethical angle to it. And then Dr. Kalam also thought, yes, ethical angle is more important, let's add to it. So Indian culture, Indian connotation to emerging technologies is to add an ethical angle. See, these technologies are serving rightfully to everyone, not only making a money-making product of it. And that's what we should be looking at in the coming years.
I think you made a very pertinent point. The cultural context of every society is different, and the technologies which are being adopted in that particular society, probably the engineers who are working on that technology may not realize that this particular technology will have different repercussions in our societal makeup. So I think this is very important topic, and as we see in Hollywood movies, sci-fi movies, etc., that there is an army of robots which is coming up and which is fighting human beings, etc. So do you think that these kind of technologies will evolve to a certain stage where you can see the artificial intelligence or machine learning is replicating their wisdom and giving a tough fight to human beings? Do you think so?
So thankfully, we have not reached at the state where robot will make a robot. That's my fear. What differentiates between machine and man is conscious. Right? So man can think what is right and wrong. Machine can think whatever is fed to him. It cannot think beyond whatever is fed to him.
And maybe it works on Cartesian principles. You give the finite data,
yes,
and that only will be processed.
Absolutely. So it's, if you look at in a very simple term, it's a statistical process.
Right.
It takes data, it extrapolates that data, and it predicts the next results. AI, machine learning, everything works on the same principle. So whatever has happened in past will happen in the future, and that's their simple assumption.
So linear
progression, right? And that has been happening from last few years. And I'll give you a very interesting example for that. America is a very heterogeneous country. In America, one of the top bank was using AI machine learning model for their credit card applications.
Right.
In that credit card applications, one of the societal segment, one of the ethnicity defaulted their credit cards.
Oh, entire community.
Not community.
Few people. Okay.
Defaulted.
Right.
So they did not pay their credit card back. But what happened? Few people from this community are defaulting. So when next application came from that community,
it automatically
took the data from past. Oh, people from this community have defaulted. So the new people might also default.
So this is a kind of profiling that was done by the machine.
Yes. So this is a profiling. Now profiling is Now, term as something bad, it's not bad though. It's a good word. Profile helps you to predict. Profile helps you to build a customer risk profile.
It finds out the pattern in
It creates
behavior.
a pattern. It also helps you. It helps bank and you. So if you are a person who is traveling a lot, it helps bank to allow you to use your card at multiple places. Or it also helps you to banks to see how much money you are going to spend. So it's good in few areas. But if you start using the personal attributes like race, ethnicity, then it becomes a problem. Now that thing happened in America because one of the ethnicity, few people from one ethnicity defaulted, bank rejected the credit card application for all people in that ethnicity without looking at how much money are they making, what's their job profile, what's their credit history. Now this is an American example, and we'll come to the point of what we are saying, how these things differ. America is a heterogeneous country. America has a different fault. You can use the word fault line, or you can use the word societal diversity. They have diversity based on ethnicity. One of the major diversity is based on the economical conditions.
Right.
I don't recall the name of that labor secretary, but he has made a really nice documentary that is called Inequality for All, and we must watch it to understand how inequality is being driven between the American society. But then these are different diversities in American society. So not all these diversity get applied to Indian society as it is. We are not that heterogeneous society in the ethical terms or ethnic terms. So though they have a model, we should have our own model, and we should apply we should think about how the technology is good. We should get this technology here, but we should apply our cultural connotations while implementing this technology in our area. We should think, oh, how I can use this technology for the betterment of people, right? So in the local train, there are too many people traveling, and with the COVID time, if you want to do a contract tracing, how would you do that? So these are a few good examples. Drones. Places like Manipur, Nagaland, where there are no roads, drones are delivering COVID vaccines. So what is the other, ultimately, why we want to use technology? For Antyodaya.
Helping the last
person on the social ladder. Yes, we want to use it for that purpose. And every policy maker, every person who is working on technology, developing technology, should think about Antyodaya. And that will help to make the technology rightful.
I think right now we are talking about societies which are democratic, right? You talked about US, how it shaped up and what are the interplays in that particular societal makeup. And you talked about India also, which is the largest democracy of the world. What about some of the societies which are authoritarian and they want to distinguish between their citizens, in their parlance, so-called good citizens and bad citizens, and deploy these kind of technologies to keep a watch on them? So do you see that these technologies are fueling the social conflict more than they should be?
Technology is a weapon, or is a tool.
It is agnostic.
Is a tool depending on the purpose you are using. So you can use it for good purpose, you can use it for bad purpose. Now it again ultimately driven by your culture or your leaders, but leader who come from the culture.
Definitely.
You get the leaders what your society deserves, or your leaders come from your society. So it's very difficult to distinguish between leader and society. I know there is a European philosophy where passion versus logic, and how passion overrides logic and logic overrides passion, but still it's very difficult to differentiate between leader and society. So in the authoritarian societies,
society gets the leader which it deserves.
Which it deserves, right? Yes. So in the authoritarian society, or very simple example, China. Why would you use facial recognition technology? Facial recognition technology can be used for very, very good reasons. You can use it for security, you can use it for, or India has used it, very, very interesting example.
In Kumbh Mela, they used this technology to find out criminals
or even lost child.
Yeah.
But a recent example what I have read, pensioners who are really old and cannot go to bank to give their proof of life, because they have to certify that they are alive continue getting pension.
Right.
India has recently implemented that using the facial recognition technology, you can give your proof of life. So they can sit home, give proof of life and get their pension automatically credited to their bank. So that's a very good use of technology.
So machine compares the real face with the photograph.
Which is
yes,
there and then you can see his recent photograph, what is the geotag on that person is still alive, everything.
Right.
But that's a very good use of technology.
Right.
The other example, Xinjiang province, where there is a lot of disturbance in China put lot of CCTVs everywhere. And there was a patent registered and that was later updated, where CCTV can use their smart techniques or artificial intelligence algorithm to identify between Han and Uyghur ethnicities.
Okay.
If they identify Uyghur ethnicity in an area where it should not be, then there was an automated system which sends a message to a mobile app on a police in that area.
And they will come there
and then they will take the next action, whatever is required. So that is the bad use of technology. So we can use technology for both reasons. Now it's up to the leader to think what is good for society. And Indian context is not society is my family. Indian context is much wider, right? Swami Vivekananda, Ramdas Swami said, "Chinta karito Vishwachi," and Sant Tukaram said, "Hey Vishwachi maze kara." So it's an Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam concept. So how we can use technology for the larger benefit of the society. So even if we develop our own vaccine, we are not restricting to ourselves. We are sending it to 70 countries. And we are not differentiating between who is which color and is our for our not our, right? Yes. So we are giving it to everyone. So forget distinguishing between our own citizen. So we are giving it to everyone. So that's about leadership, that's about the cultural aspect, that's about the values that they are bringing in. So that plays more important role in the technology. Ultimately, technology is, you can develop whatever you want, right? You can develop anything under the sun.
You can deploy nuclear science for developing power, or you can create a bomb which destroys entire world. So I think this depends on the perspective that you are going to deploy. We have seen in the recent past that such kind of technologies, obviously this particular generation Z, Generation X, whatever you call, they are much more on Instagram, social media, etc. And at the back end, these big techs are deploying these kind of technologies. That's what we have learned. And during recent controversies around Cambridge Analytica, we could see that the personal data and personal prejudices or biases were identified by the machines and they were utilized to influence their voting pattern. So, what is the role of big tech in shaping the world around us, and can we as an individual withstand that kind of a technological intervention in our lives? What is your take on it?
So I'll break this question into multiple areas. First, very important, Facebook, Instagram. You when you scroll through the feed, you like whatever you like and you leave whatever you leave, right? So, and you share what you more like. Based on what you have posted, what you have shared, and what you have liked, you leave lot of digital footprints. And based on that, you can create a personal profile. Now, a company or someone who is working in data field or machine learning field can perfectly say, oh, this guy is definitely going to like this post, not like this post, or this guy has this opinion or this ideology. Very basic idea behind Cambridge Analytica or this Facebook recent controversy is appealing to the inner fear of a person who is using it and making him to work or act what I want. That's what Cambridge Analytica did. Cambridge Analytica made it very fearful, oh, if someone doesn't get elected, then this thing will happen. And so people voted for certain people. Same thing with Facebook or Instagram's recent controversy. Teenagers or teenager girls in Western world, and might be even in the Eastern world, they see a lot of things happening on Instagram. Oh, my friend is posting this, my friend has this boyfriend, or this actress is doing that, and they feel left alone. Or
fear of missing out.
The FOMO, right? So there is a very interesting term called FOMO, fear of missing out. And that has appealed to their internal fear. And that had changed their mindset. So teenager is very shaping age. And if they get influenced by these plastic or unnatural things, then it is a danger of shifting the entire society towards a different area or different zone, because today's teenagers are tomorrow's going to be responsible citizens.
Right.
And so we might not see this impact now, but after 10 years, entire generation will be driven into a different direction. And here, a very important role of family comes to the picture. So how much time parents are spending with their kids or their teenagers' kids, how openly they are talking to them about different subjects. And I know this differs in different cultures. In Eastern culture, parents might not talk very openly about their boyfriend, their kids' boyfriends with their kids, while in Western culture it's very common. Live-in relationships, premarital sex, these are very, very important subjects which needs to be talked about with the teenagers' kids. Otherwise, with the world of unnatural plastic Instagram stories, it's a fear of them getting lost and being carried away into a different direction. So, big techs have an important role in play in that area too. Big tech needs to put a very stricter controls and checks about what content is being posted, how much natural it is, or who is using that, for what purpose it is being used, is it being promoted at different areas. They have specific algorithms based on which they promote certain content to certain profile, certain age group. You are viewing certain content, that means you are more interested in this content, so that gets fed into their news feed. So big techs need to be moderated in this area. But there is another challenge. Now, if you see, after 6 January 2020 event in Capitol Hill, Twitter permanently banned Donald Trump. So now irony is, Donald Trump does not have a Twitter, but Taliban has a Twitter account. So who is moderating it? So that means Twitter is bigger than American government.
Right.
So big tech needs to moderate the content, but at the same time, big tech also needs to be moderated by something.
So big tech is appearing like they are their own lawyers as well as they are the judges.
Yes.
So it's the combined role of being a lawyer of a particular ideology, particular thinking pattern, as well as they are sitting on the justice of that particular and they are shadow banning.
Yes, shadow banning is another
So instances of these kind are coming to the light, and I think you have lived in Western world in 3 continents. So you may throw certain light how these big techs are tamed by the Western democracies vis-a-vis what they are being regulated in a country like India. Are we doing sufficiently to control the big techs and their patterns? For example, I know that parliamentary committee had summoned Twitter CEO, he refused to come, etc.
Yes.
And I think Facebook was also having the similar problems globally. So do you think that the regulatory environment in a country like India is sufficient enough to control all these AI, ML, or are there any parallels that you would like to draw from the experiences which Western countries have and you would like to get them implemented here in India?
So what I would say very short, not all countries are doing sufficiently enough to moderate big techs. Not America, not Europe, not India. And I think big techs are becoming more and more bigger, powerful than government itself. So in this recent example of Donald Trump, I don't want to get into if Trump was wrong, right, what statement he made, but was he given a due legal process? Was there a hearing? Was he made to make a statement? No. He was banned unilaterally. Unilaterally, right? So in any legal process, even Ajmal Kasab got due legal process and he got to say whatever he wanted to say in the court of law, right? But big techs became so big that even when we had an evidence of Ajmal Kasab
in the world, he
got banned. So there is something needs to be done on the big tech side, and it might not be possible at the very top level initially, but it needs to be built from the bottom up and that tops down at the same time. There should be regulation about how these AI models should be moderated, but at the also top level, what policies needs to be framed by the big tech, how much their content generation is, promotion is, How much money are they making? How much money are they dispersing? Can they issue their own currency? Can they transfer data globally? What should be their data retention norms? So these are global policy issues should be also taken in consideration by major large democracies while regulating big techs.
I think there was a movie called Matrix, and many people must have seen that. And in Matrix, there is one person who is operating that spacecraft which the people in Matrix used to travel. And the Neo or Anderson, not Anderson, Mr. Anderson or Neo, who is the main character or protagonist. So he talks to that person and he asks him, what are your origins? Then that person says that I'm a original human being from this earth. So do you see a possibility that the world becomes so artificial, so made up and so influenced by these big techs, wherein the originality of human beings is lost? Do you think this kind of scenario will play out, say not today, not 10 years down the line, but maybe 50 years down the line? Because big tech is controlling all the aspects of your life. You see a Facebook post and you want to buy a particular item. You see a particular lifestyle on a Instagram and you would like to adopt that kind of a lifestyle. And there is a kind of artificial pepping up of particular products, particular lifestyles, particular countries as destinations, etc. So all these aspects of your choice are no longer your choice. They are making you to make your choice, and it is appearing that as if you are making choice, but you are influenced. So this is an ethical dilemma.
So I'll take you to a even bigger picture. So let's leave artificial intelligence, machine learning for a minute. Think about the oranges you were eating when you were a child. So you were getting sweet oranges, sour oranges, but you wouldn't know what orange you are going to eat when you peel off. Now with the genome sequencing and modification and GM technologies, you can get sweet oranges in a bunch. So first you lost a fun of not knowing in hindsight what kind of orange you are going to get. Also, it's a bigger risk of interfering into the law of nature.
Ecosystem.
Law of nature. And that is happening in everything. With the genome sequencing, with the cloning, with the genome sequencing, if you put that in a human, can you make a human of what you like?
With the characteristics that you like, or your culture endorses.
Yes, or what you like and might not fit in the societal values. Because let's combine these two things together. You see something on Instagram. Oh, this guy is really nice. I want my boy to be like this. And you genome sequence that and make a really different human being that does not fit in your family. So that is the bigger risk that I see at this point of time. It's not only one technology, but it's a larger, all emerging technologies. How we use them rightfully. You take an aspect of Indian values. What is Hindu Dharma? It's a Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan is sustainable. What sustains is Sanatan. It need not to be same at every 100 years.
It's not a monoculture.
Yeah, it's whatever 100 years back, 1000 years back, it's not same, but still we are Hindu. So it's Sanatan. So it needs to be sustained, and then how these different technologies, how our dharma can sustain using this different technology. That we need to think, because I'm using word dharma, but it's a basic Indian value.
Duties. Dharma is duty for
Dharma
us.
is duty, and it's a basic Indian value. And even when I say Indian, when I even say Indian, it's not Indian. It's an entire Indian subcontinent. You go to Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan. Now with last 100 years, it might have changed, but we still share same values. So how we use these values in using these technologies, that is more important.
So as we were discussing, the technologies are shaping up in different world and they are applied in different cultural setup. So do you think that a kind of intervention into a native culture by the developers of technology is a possibility? For example, I learnt through some of the information available in public domain that one of the Western universities commissioned a project to profile people who are participating in Kumbh Mela. Kumbh Mela is the largest congregation of people for a particular religious event in the world. And there you have traditions. For example, Naga sadhus will come first, and then the other akhadas will join. Akhadas will have their own priority list, which akhada will come first, etc. And particular narratives which took shape in the different world, they have been thwarted on us. For example, you may find that a particular akhada is being manned or only for LGBT community, or a particular akhada is only for third gender. So these kind of interventions are taking shape in native traditions, and they do not necessarily originate in the native tradition. They come from the different world. And see, for example, a Westerner will look at Indian diversity and he get flummoxed that, oh my God, this kind of diversity, how you are going to manage? But Indian person visiting a Western society will find that, oh, it is like similar kind of building, similar kind of people. So kind of monoculture, little bit of standardization in their culture, etc. So these are different cultural aspects. And Westerner would like to create the clones of their societal innovations into different world. In sociology, I know a term called McDonaldization of society. So as a famous burger, is made in a very standardized way. In fact, the nature of the bread, the assortments with it, everything will be common across the globe. So therefore, this particular monoculture and development of monoculture is being forced by the technology. Do you think that there is a room for native cultures to go beyond this and adopt their own freedom, weaving that kind of a cultural freedom into the technological world?
So it's a very simple answer. Whatever rules or regulations are there are reflective of their culture. US, India has capital punishment. Europe does not have capital punishment.
Right.
Saudi has a different type of capital punishment where they chop off the head.
Right.
So it's a reflective of your culture. It's take now same thing into the AI machine learning. Something might be very appropriate in America, in UK, but might not be appropriate in India. Now, same-sex marriages are not legal in many states of America. Or third gender or LGBT were not given due rights in America at many places. While in India, we recently got a Padma Shri to a kinnar. Also, in a Dharmic civilization like us, we have also given them a highest respect, equivalent to us, not a single difference.
Right. Shikhandi
was example, right? I came from Kashi last week. I saw a same-sex couple worshipping at Kashi doing Rudrabhishek along with me.
Wow.
And it was not frowned upon. It was not looked differently. So that is the cultural aspect that we develop.
That is the richness of diversity that we have in the society.
I am not sure if a same-sex couple can go to church and do the same rituals that other people are doing in a same setting.
Right.
In a same church where other people are doing. So that is the difference and diversity that we adopt to. Now, if we want to use these AI machine learning models, because of this so much differences, we cannot pick up a model from America and put it directly in India. We have to think about the cultural context. How will you think about the cultural context? Not by bringing someone from outside who has looked at India from outside for 2 months and 3 months, but by bringing someone who has grown up and studied something here. And this brings to a very important point of diversity and inclusion. If you are developing an AI system, AI model, what kind of people you want to develop that model? You cannot bring someone who is completely unfamiliar with the local terrain and ask him to develop an AI model which will be used in local terrain. That is very difficult. And then you have to bring all type of diversity. You cannot have only statisticians. You will need to have a linguist, you will have a sociologist, cultural expert, and different type of people. So that's the academic diversity. You also need to bring a diversity of genders. You can have, if you have all male in the team, they will think in a certain direction. You look at our homes. All homes are by male spouse name, and it's a very rare combination that homes are on the female spouse name. So that is the way, because, and that, not right and wrong, but that is how our society is made up of, right? So that because society has made up in this way, people who are developing the AI model will think in a similar manner. So you need to bring the diversity of genders. You need to bring diversity of third gender to protect their rights. Then diversity of tribal. So if you want to protect everyone's right, if you want to give everyone's representation, do not discriminate on anyone, have all societal segments, then you need to create a diverse team to develop an AI machine learning model and a regulatory policy for that.
So the societal diversity is being nurtured and cared for by the teams who are diverse in nature.
Yes.
That's what you mean to say.
Yes.
Right, because that will reflect into the kind of AI or ML models that they are going to develop and design.
Yes, because then if I'm not lived in a northeastern area of India, I don't even know what their cultural practices are. So if I want to consider them in my machine learning model, I need to bring in from someone who has lived in that area, who has grown up in that area, and ask him a right question.
Who understands the nuances
of the society and culture, and ask him the right questions, so I can integrate these nuances into my machine learning system.
Right. And I think the technologies which are shaping up, they also, on the side of biotechnology, there is a lot of revolution which is happening. Humankind has made progress to even control the cell level activity to giving birth to a cloned of a being. So do you think that these kind of technologies which will lead us to pick and choose particular human being, the way it wants to have its characteristics, they call it as eugenics. Do you see that these kind of developments will take shape in the society, where right now even identification of a sex of a child is banned in India?
Yes.
Right, and rightly so, because there are certain prejudices in the society which made historically in the recent past female life more difficult.
Yes.
Therefore, rightly so that they have banned it. So, eugenics is an area where maybe devil mind may create a monster, or a saintly mind may create another saint. So, as you rightly said, that particular technology depends on the person who uses that technology and intention of that person to deploy that technology. So, eugenics has the scope for it has a good scope in terms of, say for example, there are certain genetic disorders. If you want to eliminate those genetic disorders from your population, the way you have kicked out polio from your society, then you will have to deploy such kind of technologies, genetic technologies to use. But if you want to entirely create a human being which is fair, which has Caucasian features in an Indian context, fair, tall, then height, body excellent, as well as the nasal features are like Europeans, etc. So this kind of one human being and the replication of that particular human being into a society will entirely change them versus us in this particular society. So what is your take on these kind of evolving biotechnology and the regulatory environment which is controlling them?
And it's a very interesting question, and answer is also very interesting. Ultimately, I'm repeating this many times, it's a reflection of our culture and how it is reflection. It's a tool. Technology is a tool. You want to use technology for the betterment of society in a righteous manner. What is betterment and what is not betterment needs to be defined with the Indian values or with the dharmic ways. And then there are very guiding principles in that, right? Clone. I like Abdul Kalam. So can I make 10 million Abdul Kalams in my society because he was good? No. Jatasya dhruvam mrute, dhruvam janma mrute. If someone has born, he has to die. That's the Indian way of looking into it. So, someone, he can live with his thoughts,
even the
but it's not
of gods also
taken is a different form, right? So, you need to, if he is very good, he can live Nirantan or Chirantan with, or he can be a
His own
Chiranjeev.
ideas.
He can be a Chiranjeev with his ideas, right? He can be there for his ideas, but not in a physical body. We don't have a materialistic approach to look at the things, but more a better approach to look into things, that I would say. And that's the difference between the Western philosophy and Eastern philosophy. Now, India has restricted cloning. So there was a UN convention and all countries were debating if we should do a cloning or not. And India has put a very firm stand that we can allow cloning only for the therapeutic purpose. So if liver is damaged, then we can do a cloning of liver that can be implanted to the liver. And that is, I think, a very good stand considering our societal values. Because then if you think you would create a similar Abdul Kalam many times, then uniqueness of Dr. Kalam is gone. Other way, if you create 10,000 Hitlers and keep them in a training camp, or you create a Caucasian soldiers who are, in India we have a lot of diversity. Someone short, someone tall, colors and everything. But if you create genetically strong human being, keep them in a definite area, train them for 20 years and make them to listen to whatever you want, then you are creating a force that is ready to do anything for you in next 20 years. So that is something which is not acceptable. That is also damage the society in the long term, right? So India has taken a firm stand that India does not allow cloning other than therapeutic purposes.
So I understood what you are saying about cultural context and the technological adoption. But the beginnings has to take place in the education system. So do you think that our current education system, where there is a clear distinction between STEM and humanities, humanities are on the other side and STEM is on the other side, do you see that this kind of compartmentalization of knowledge transfer in a society like India, where knowledge has been given and shared freely through ages? We had the world's largest libraries in Nalanda and Takshashila, which were burned down by the invaders. So the kind of knowledge that we had, it's a great heritage that we carry. So do you think that such kind of traditional knowledge can be deployed to in today's world, and the education system where integrated education in terms of not just technology but ethical side of the technology will be impinged or will be taught or will be inculcated to the students of science and engineering? Do you think so there is a need?
That's very important. First, and two aspects. So first is education and second is service industry. Both things have made Indian working class think in a very pragmatic manner. Made to develop softwares, they have certain rules and you develop certain things in a certain way, very rule oriented. So we think 2 plus 2 is 4 all the time. Shashi Tharoor has also mentioned in one of his book, I don't recall the name, but engineers are very pragmatic and they don't think out of the box. So that's one of the challenge we are facing. And then it has come through multiple or multi-level issues with the British education system, with the service-oriented education system, with the segregation of humanities and technology. It has imparted in last 2-3 generations. When I speak to, I recently spoke to one of the university, I realized that I was speaking to a student of humanities and I was supposed to speak about what should be your career options. And it's easy for me if I speak with engineers and computer science because I know they can go to Tesla and Facebook and Google and Netflix. But with the psychology, international relations, political science and sociology, where are they going? But now trend is changing. Now trend is changing. With one of my friends who just recently did a PhD in sociology, got hired into Facebook to do their UX research. Someone is looking at the Facebook profile, Facebook page, what is the best interface that he can get? And now big techs have also started hiring these type of people who have an integrated approach of looking into things. Now we as a good service industry with intelligent people should recognize this trend well in advance. With the current segregation of humanities and technology, there is a need of an integrated approach of engineers should understand what's happening in humanities, what is the ethical approach, what is the right and wrong from the societal values, and at the same point, humanities people should have some introduction to technology. If we don't have that now, but we should have that in a coming future.
Both of us are engineers and we got trained into a particular fashion. And during our engineering 4 years, I think we have learned about 30-40 topics and the books towards it. And ironically, in particular those 30 to 40 topics, we could find not a single humanity topic, right? Only one topic used to be there, which is more to do with finance or accounting than anything else.
Absolutely.
But how a cultural context sets apart different societies and how the technological adoption is received by a particular culture, these kind of case studies were not at all there in the education system. So I think these kind of educational models need to be relooked at, and humanities in technological education should be introduced. As well as you rightly said, humanities alone cannot solve the problems of today's world, because ultimately it's a problem of scale.
Yes.
And problem of you are going to feed 6 billion people on this earth, then maybe 50 years down the line you are going to feed 9 billion people. So with a growing populace, the problems are going to extrapolate.
Yes.
They are going to become bigger. Pollution is going to create a lot of problem in this world, and even preserving the original ecosystem needs technological interventions.
Yes.
So I think the environmental scientist needs to also learn about these aspects. Vice versa, a sociologist needs to learn about the technological intervention. So any recommendations from your experience?
Without not disturbing the original ecosystem, but improving the life of people. Simple example is, if tribals are living in a very remote area, they don't have an access to a lot of things. So, and that has happened over last 50 years, 60 years. People got cut off, people got alienated, people developed animosity against the mainstream or the central part or mainland of the country, and that has happened across multiple. I'm not talking about India, but India, China, Russia, the big countries where there was power centers in center, but it was a vast country having different cultural pockets and different ethnicities. The other side of the ethnicities,
People on the margins.
they developed an animosity against the central power
System.
So technology can play a very important role here. It's not about only binding nation together, but binding them cohesively and creating a good, conducive atmosphere within a country, and then going beyond Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, right? So how technology can technology provide them good broadband, can provide them good connectivity, can give them good vaccinations, can give them access to all the government schemes that has been developed, which have not reached them over last 70 years. Can we develop them good medications and provide them good medications? So that is something, an important role technology can play. And this is not someone who is a technologist can think of. This is a role of a policy maker. Someone who is sitting at Niti Aayog, someone who is sitting at the decision making role should think about how I can, Antyodaya, how I can do who is the last person on the ladder and how I can help him till my life. So that is the most important thing. And then technology is just an enabler. It just, we need to think that our enabler should not turn into a destroyer.
So again, if we look at today's world, right now as we speak, there is a potential conflict developing in Ukraine, where the NATO and Russia are at loggerheads. Or you take example of Middle East, where the Yemenis and Houthis and the Saudis and Iran is backing Houthis, etc., etc., and the conflicts are playing big time in these worlds, and they have a potential to grow up big. If there is a fuel to the fire, then they will grow big. And you never know, it may World War III, there are certain predictions that World War III might erupt, or it may not erupt. It's just a muscle flexing. So only future will tell us what these conflicts will shape up. But do you think that, for example, in one of the recent war zones, drones were extensively used in Middle East, and they had changed the entire balance of power in the favor of the technological commands. In fact, in India, on 29 January, there is always a beating the retreat parade. And in recent beating the retreat parade, there were thousands of drones developed by IIT Delhi, which were deployed to showcase what the Indian civilization is progressing, etc. So, conflict particularly two warring nations, two warring communities, or fault lines into the society. As you said, people living on the margins of the society, they are against the centralized system, and they are basically at loggerheads with the interest of that particular society. So, do you think that these technologies are accentuating conflicts or resolving conflicts? Again, the answer I know that is going to come is basically it depends on how it is deployed and who it is using. But do you think that with the current kind of setup that we have in the capitalistic society, in one of your answers you said that the fear of losing out or FOMO is being capitalized by the big techs, or for that matter any commercial organization. That's the first marketing principle, that you create fear among your customers and then provide solution to counter that fear, so that you gain maximum number of product hits, or buy from the customers. So this particular system is used in the capitalistic society for long. Your loss is my gain. So on that principle, these capitalistic societies operate. But as you rightly said, Indian dharmic civilization has been asking for Ata Vishwatmake Deve, Yene Vagedne Toshave. So it is talking about giving the fruits of development, or fruits of knowledge, or fruits of happiness to everyone in the society. So there is an inherent inclusion in the societal value of dharmic civilizations. And traditionally, after the Britishers have ruled our country, we have forgotten these dharmic civilizational values to bring them at the center stage of the policy.
Yes, absolutely.
So they need to be at the center stage of the policy, rather than these particular artificial values of creating fear and then selling your product. So what is your take to bring in those dharmic values of say prudence, inclusiveness, sarvam khalvidam brahma, etc. into the policy making fold?
So, and it's a very nice example of drone. What drone can do? It's very true. Drone can pick up something and deliver at some place. Two very perfect example of this. Drone can pick up an Amazon parcel and deliver at your home within no time. But drone can across the border pick up an RDX and make a blast in Pathankot. Which happened in past, right? Which happened in Punjab. Now, policymakers need to think about what is the dharmic way of using this technology rightfully. Now, is drone that smart to detect that there is an explosive mechanism? Is there an automated battery powered running engine that will make a blast in the future? Is drone capable to identify how far it can fly? So these things needs to be put as a controls, checks and balances while developing a technology. So you can use this technology for good reason. If you want to if you want to pick up a parcel and deliver it someplace, it should not be battery powered. Means the parcel should not be battery powered. It should not contain an explosive material. It should not travel more than 20 kilometers. It should not be guided by someone who is more than certain, or it should not be guided by laser technology. So these things needs to be checked in or put in as a control and checks and balances. So this drone technology cannot be used to carry an explosive or make a blast. So this is a comprehensive policy that is required to be developed.
And here the regulatory role.
Yes, here the regulatory role will come in. Regulation is what, or audit is what, to find out a criminal element and do a punitive action. And then what are the criminal elements in it? First, very important is transparency. The technology what you have developed, is it transparent? Is it transparent? Can everyone sitting here know what's happening inside? What is going to be the process of output generation, where that output will be used? Second is non-discrimination and bias. So your personal biases. And everyone has personal biases, but that personal bias should not come into the decision making process. Then non-discrimination. I should not discriminate anyone on his caste, creed, color, any different personal attribute, political views. So these things should be put as checks in audit and in a regulation. So, and these things are ultimately derived from the dharmic values. Ekam sad vipra bahuda vadanti is the non-discriminatory principle. You can worship any god, you reach one god. So that's basic non-discriminatory principle. But you derive these principles from dharmic values and implement them in the policy making process. And that will help to develop a righteous technology.
And I think there is a need to have good people at the helm of affairs who will have the dharmic outlook, and they have inculcated those values in their own lives, and they are also shaping the policy. I think this is the need of the hour. Do you think that a regulatory environment in a country, developing country like India, is conducive enough to, and they have wherewithals to initiate these checks and balances? Do you think that we can definitely regulate these kind of technologies which are going to shape up immensely the culture as well as human societies in the future?
And even civilization.
Even civilization.
Yes.
In the future.
And even civilization.
Even civilization.
So I would say I'm very hopeful. I read the Niti Aayog's paper on responsible AI. That is very comprehensive, but it's still a guiding principle. It's a guiding principle. It has not translated into a regulation yet. But India is a big country with more than 30 states. Every state has a different regulation. So it will take some time to flow that down into a country level, a state level, and then create a regulation. But I'm very hopeful that at least a guiding principle paper is very comprehensive and derived based on the Indic values.
Right. And what are the checks and balances that we should pay attention to? Any examples that you would like to cite?
At the personal level?
No, at societal level.
At the society or anything. First, we need to make sure that does it make sense, and what it means is it Sanatan? What was happening before technology? Is it still happening after technology or not? Or is it harming someone? Is it aligned with our societal values or not? Is anyone getting disturbed or not? And at personal level, even at the societal level, we should be checking these basic things. Does it make sense or not? Everything you see, you should ask this question to yourself. Does it make sense? If it makes sense, then go ahead.
And in a consumption-led society, individuals more often than not follow others.
Yes.
So, for example, he is having a particular brand of car, then my family also says that no, we should buy that kind of a car, because we feel that a societal status is acquired by materialistic possessions. So this kind of particular behavior replicates itself.
Yes.
And then the society becomes a kind of little bit of copying each other and becoming monoculture kind of a thing. So at a personal level, how to prevent your mind being influenced and utilized by the marketers of the world or the big techs of the world who would like to sell a particular pattern to you, a particular lifestyle to you, a particular consumption pattern to you? How to prevent yourself from getting sucked into this kind of a big juggernaut which is operating around us?
That's a very difficult question, and then especially the capitalist country or even the world of Coca-Cola and US Polo, I am very afraid to say that I am even kept away myself doing that. I am very much big fan of brands and different phones and accessories. So I get stuck into this, but at least I try to think that is it absolute necessary, or I am just buying it because someone else has it. If it is, the basic check I should be doing is it going to add value to me, and I am going to make my and my immediate family's life better by having this product. If not, I shouldn't be just following anyone for the sake of following.
Right. In fact, Indian way of life teaches us to live frugally.
Yes.
And without, our earlier civilizational values, I'm not talking about the recent ones which have been developed due to influences from the Western world or capitalistic society, but earlier values actually forced us not to look at material possession as something big. Raja Janak was king, but he was valued much more because not he was king, but because he was a spiritually awakened mind. So the inherent values in our dharmic civilization were to look upon an individual as a soul, and repository of wisdom, repository of knowledge, repository of experiences, etc. And therefore, materialistic possessions, whether he possesses materialistic possessions like a king or a Ashtavakra who was a physically challenged person, but still he was revered for his wisdom and the Gita that he produced. So, do you think that we should adopt to those kind of values again in order to set ourselves free from the bondage that these new technologies create?
And this is, I'm going to borrow from someone. Fareed Zakaria,
Right.
CNN's editor, runs the GPS 360 show on every Sunday. He has written a book called 10 Lessons from Pandemic.
Right.
And he has said a very nice thing in that. Western world has developed very significantly last 200 years. He has not used the Indian or Dharmic way, but Indian and Western and Eastern world.
Non-Western world, yeah.
Eastern and Western. So he has considered ourselves as, including himself, as Eastern world. So Western world has built a significant, developed significantly, built bridges, machines, aeroplanes to come over the nature, to win the nature or control the nature. While but that has collapsed in pandemic. Though your immediate family is dying somewhere, you cannot even go and visit them.
Right. You cannot even attend a funeral.
You cannot
because
attend a
of the
funeral.
contagious
And
nature.
then what is the use of having so much technology? But while Eastern way of looking into things is completely different. It's about coming to the terms with life and accepting those as they are and going forward with it. So that is the Indic way, Eastern way in civilization that we should be thinking about. I'm just borrowing from him, but that really appealed me as an Indian writing for an Indian based on Indian values, and that will really help society to go forward.
I think this is a very pertinent point. The outlook towards looking at life is inherently different in this world than in the Western world.
Yes.
And as you rightly said, that the pandemic has taught us a lesson to accept that we are at the mercy of the forces that operate in the nature. And despite of all the progress that we have made, all the technologies we have done, our immediate family member, if he is dying, it was a feeling of helplessness which got instilled into many individuals across the globe, and even developed societies like US or for that matter Europe, there you could see that the instances of people dying because of lack of medical infrastructure, we couldn't have imagined.
Yes.
In developing world. That developed world may also creak in such kind of a scenario. It was a live unfortunate experience, so to say, but entire world has seen. And I think there are several controversial theories also, conspiracy theories also, which are doing the round, that whether it is man-made, whether this kind of pandemic was induced by someone,
Yes.
the global would-be superpower, and is there any tinkering at the level of virus, and then the onslaught of the virus across the democracies were ushered in, etc. So again, the technology,
Yes.
technology is coming up here, science and technology, not just technology.
Genome sequencing
Genome
or the
sequencing,
modifications. So, and then
virology,
yes,
and how
ultimately the right question is it going to help mankind or not?
right.
Or is it going to destroy the mankind?
And if you go by the conspiracy theories, there is a power in the world which wants to curb the growth of the population, and these kind of pandemic or such kind of things are being thwarted on the civilization, global civilization, to control that kind of a situation. I am not saying that the conspiracy theories are right or wrong, but since the conspiracy theories are taking birth because of all these aspects, I think there is a valid reason to believe that the threat that new technologies are posing to the age-old civilizations.
Yes. No, the conspiracy theory will come and go like for every situation.
Right.
Even the Malaysian Airlines aircraft went down, there were conspiracy theory. But the major role here is
even Osama bin Laden's
Yes.
killing was
Yes.
embroiled in a conspiracy.
Yes. But the
theory.
major role here is, first, is technology doing the right thing, and second, is technology controlling the conspiracy theory or not? Can you circulate anything on Facebook without any check? Can you circulate anything on WhatsApp? WhatsApp forwards.
There is a threat
Yes.
of deep fakes also.
Deep fakes, right? Deep fake is a different issue, but can you forward anything on WhatsApp without being validated? And then technology should play a bigger role in doing a fact check in these type of conspiracy theories. The deep fake issue is something very similar to cloning. That is a threat to
Your digital persona
civilization.
is being cloned.
That is threat to civilization. I completely believe that. And then there needs to be controls, checks and balances about who is doing it, why he is doing it, what he is doing it, what is the purpose of it. And it should be, if required, it should be done in a very moderated and controlled environment for a beneficial purpose.
In fact, there is an age-old value in every civilization that says that what you see, that you believe.
Yes.
And I think deepfake is going to change that. What you see cannot be believed.
And we believe, absolutely, yes. Now, yes, deepfake, cloning, both are a threat at this point, if not done in a controlled manner.
Right. So to sum up the conversation that we are having on this technology and cultural interplay, what is the best way forward for human civilization, especially to draw from the experiences that the dharmic civilizations like India or China had throughout the ages, to I will not say control the technology, but to shape the future of the humankind with the help of technology.
Yes.
In a more congenital way, in a more acceptable way, in a more inclusive way. How do you achieve that at a global level?
So first is technology literacy. It needs to be spread in a multiple direction, multidimensional, and the prerequisite to that is access to technology. So government should enable the access to technology, then provide the literacy to technology and enable people to use technology in a rightful manner. If you think the larger population, they are using it for the good reason. Everyone wants to live happily. China, we don't have any civilization animosity. India and China are the oldest civilization living next to each other, compatible for few thousand years. So they can work together on these issues as a civilization, as a channel to connect. And that's the first thing. Literacy, connect with multiple countries, and then policy to use this technology in a rightful direction. These are the three things I would say are more required to use technology in a rightful manner.
I think very pertinent points that you have highlighted here. And I'm sure the viewers of Rashtra Sevak channel, they have actually come to terms with various aspects of technological transformation that is taking shape in the world, and the ethical dilemmas faced by the policymakers. Not just policymakers, but individuals like you and me, who are day in and day out using, knowing or unknowingly, the big tech and their products to make a choice of your life in this world. And I think this conversation will definitely help everyone to understand the nuances of this and how to overcome the lacuna left by the technology, and to be seen in a perspective of a dharmic civilization, which we are. And the policymakers, their emphasis on human aspects of technological use, I think very apt conversation, and you have thrown light on several aspects of it.
We have to
Thank you very much for...
I'll say one thing. We have to remember that technology is to serve human, not human to serve technology.
Right.
We have to remember this.
We are not at the mercy of
Yes,
the technology.
we are not at the mercy of technology. We have to remember this while we do anything in the technology.
This is very important and very valid. Because we need to be in the controlling panel.
Yes.
Controlling
Human conscious.
situation.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think this is a very valid point. And on this note, I think let us conclude this discussion. And thank you very much for participating in this discussion and throwing light, enlightening our viewers and us, including me, on various aspects of technology and culture.
Yes, pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
Thank you. So, guys, I hope that you like this particular discussion on the interplay of culture and technology, how big tech is shaping up our own mind, and how to discern between ethical dilemmas and the technological aspects that are playing around us. If you liked any particular aspect of this discussion, please use the comment box to write your comments. And if you would like to know more about it or certain aspects that you would like to highlight in a particular conversation in this particular area, then also you can use the comment box and comment. Thank you for watching this Rashtra Sevak channel and today's discussion. I hope this discussion will help you understand AI, ML and the cultural aspects of it in a much better way. Thank you. Namaste.